Hey, let me know when you're ready.
Now, there's another kind of cool um, tool here, a method that I've seen used very effectively recently. And actually, it's a group that's located here in Indianapolis called Connected. And basically, what they've done is they've automated a way of getting LinkedIn connections to you. So you specify what kind of demographic you're looking for, and it mines your second and third and beyond group that are part of your LinkedIn profile. And it automatically reaches out, hey, Will, you know, I'd be very interested in getting connected with you on LinkedIn. Would you connect to me and we could discuss, blah, 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 whatever it might be. And it looks like a personal message. And a lot of people will say, sure, I'd love to connect with you. What's going on? And the system will automatically respond to them with certain information, including what you're up to and what you're doing to. And when they connect to you and engage with them, you can then personally engage with them. But meantime, it's handled that process, even if it takes them, a month to get back and say, oh, okay, sure, I'll follow you. I mean, you've essentially automated the process of connecting them to you through LinkedIn. And then you can message them directly. It seems to be the kind of response rate you get is in the 20s. So, you send out 100 requests and you're probably going to get 20 or 25 connections, and that's spectacular. If you send out emails, for instance, if you got an email list of I don't know, vice presidents or something to send attempts to contact to, you're going to get 2%, 1%, and you're going to have a hard time because everyone is so overwhelmed with data, right? A lot of other methods you have probably aren't going to be so effective because they're not really used for this purpose. And there's some text marketing and some other things. It's probably not going to work very well for our kind of industry. But this could be amazingly useful, and the rate of getting connections is pretty high. So, and people will engage in a constructive communication with you. So anyway, you could go to www.democonnected.com and take a look at it. They're growing like leaps and bounds around here, so impressive. Email lists. So this is an area that can be very effective also for our type of industry. You need to find a way to capture when someone comes to your website. You can essentially offer to have them join your mailing list and get information. So basically, often the way to do this is with a funnel type page, something that offers them something free, or will send them a short white paper or something that's specifically of interest around your particular skill, or something that you'd offer, something that might seem valuable or useful to a customer or a potential customer that would entice them to give you their email address and agree to get on your mailing list. So this is something, tools like MailChimp, and there's a bunch of them other ones out there that you can use for doing that sort of thing. And if you set up this communication, sometimes people, initially they're not ready to engage with you. They're not sure, but they found you through searching and they found this page about what you're doing, and they're kind of curious. And after a little while, they're like, hey, I should engage with this guy, right? Especially if they're getting a regular, useful newsletter from you. Calendly, this is another thing. Instead of just forcing them to make a phone call to you, maybe your head's down working, you're not going to answer, or maybe you never answer your cell phone because nobody does these days, because we're overwhelmed with information. So Calendly, many of you have already seen this, but it can automatically, you can set aside some times, whether they're half an hour appointments or 15 minutes or an hour or whatever. You can set some time aside on your schedule, and they can come in and automatically pick a time to have a call with you. And so it makes it very easy. Instead of, so when someone comes in and is actually interested, you can have the call of action, actually schedule a phone call time with them. And this can be very effective in converting someone to, or finding a new opportunity, maybe would have been lost otherwise if it took them more effort to accomplish. Right? Supercharge your outreach. You can buy, create, or acquire mailing lists. Right? So this is a little bit. You got to think about who exactly you're trying to mail, and this is a struggle. LinkedIn these days is one pretty good way, but there are ways to find mailing lists that you might have to purchase that would be usable for email or for other kinds of direct contact outreach. You can even do direct letters and postcards or emails or text message or social media ads that can be tracked immediately. And there's a service here that I suggested, directmail.io, that could help you actually implement that procedure. I've already talked a whole bunch about funnels, dedicated web pages to funnel prospects to you. A page and offers a free informational download of some kind, right? So these can all be very useful ways to create some kind of a flow of prospective clients, right? And that's kind of what you're looking for, some way to tee up people who volunteer to be your customers instead of having to, hunt and hunt and hunt. You're looking for a school of fish, or you're looking for a fish that volunteers, not just have to hunt them all over the place and grab them with your bare hands or something, So I guess it's sort of a way of thinking. Next page, please. All right. So here's another thing. We all know about CRMs, and, customer relationship management systems, and there's a bunch of them out there. And some of these are big versions of things like MailChimp, which just handles email. And some of these other things also handle that sort of thing. But Salesforce and HubSpot, but are essentially mainly CRM types of systems. And so they allow you to keep track of all those leads and prospects and follow-ups and communication details. And so if you've got ultimately, if you have more than one salesperson, you can figure out what the heck did we tell this guy last month when we talked to him? Did we move him along in the process, right? And what in the world, what was the proposal we sent them? And they were supposed to get back to us by the 15th, but they didn't. So all of this sorts of things, CRMs, finding a CRM that handles the level of deal flow that you're having, may be very inexpensive at the level that many of us consultants are at. But even as you grow, this could be a very useful thing, and the expense will grow as your demand grows. And there's also something called workflow automation, and quite often the CRM is built into it, or it's a part of it, right? Helps you not to drop the ball. And so I suggested a couple, Podio and Pipedrive, and some of these they have a database backend, of course, similar to what the CRMs do, and but many of these also have some additional automatic workflow automation you can add. In other words, when you create a new project, automatically certain people in your organization get tasks to do certain things, and then when they finish those things, people who review those things get those, and then before the proposal goes out to the customers, the senior person reviews it, and I could see this if you were a small engineering firm or something like that. You want to make sure that maybe you've got some younger, newer guys that are doing some of the initial work, but you want to make sure the senior guys review them before they go out the door and cause you problems because they weren't done right. I've seen this happen before, where the senior guys get busy and they don't review something, and whoa, it went out, and now it's wrong. Right? Not good. So part of the problem is making sure that you get through all the steps of your standard operating procedures. And these may be pretty simple, but the point is to improve the quality of your overall operation by making sure that the I's got dotted and the T's got crossed, so that your customers are pleased with the results. And so this also goes to how do you keep a group of people working together. And this could be a group inside your company, or it could be a group that's a part of several companies, maybe part of your customer and part of you, and maybe even some vendors and other people that keep all together. You can use some tools like Basecamp 3, Slack, and Trello, right? If you've done software engineering where you're doing um, agile development. You might use Trello, and you're going to see how these sort of things work together. Slack is often used in more broad environments. Basecamp has some of the advantages of both, I think. It's a very interesting tool. Next page. So the other side is administrative and business systemization and efficiency. So one of the tools I would suggest you look into is something called Harvest. And there's a tool that goes along with it called Forecast. So of all the ones that I've looked at, you often are in a situation as a consultant where you've got to track your hours, and you want to put together an invoice that represents what did you spend your time doing. Spent 3 hours doing this and 4 hours doing that, 1.5 hours doing this, and we traveled here and it cost this much, and you want to have sort of a nice itemized invoice. Well, Harvest will help you put that together, not only tracking your hours for billing, but maybe also for payroll. It can help you put together quotes so that it actually can send the quote out to your customer and they can approve it. And it actually connects them directly to QuickBooks, and it'll put that quote into QuickBooks for you. And then as you track your progress, you can send invoices against this project, and the invoices go out. When payment comes in, you can mark them paid, and they're automatically marked in QuickBooks. Makes it so much easier, right? You can track your budgets and see how far along you are. Are you under budget? Are you over budget? And how far along are you? You actually put the basic work breakdown structure into the thing, and as you charge hours against the pieces and parts of the work breakdown structure, it'll just give you really simple. I mean, I've seen tools that make this so much more complex. Anyway, this is just one I found. You may have some that you like better that you use, but this kind of an idea helps you keep track of, if you're trying to understand what your earned value is on a project, you're trying to understand how, whether you're in trouble here because you're not going to get done on time, or you're trying to figure out if it's going to cost you too much money, or, hopefully you can start to see what's happening early by this. Forecast is a tool that helps you if you have multiple resources. Let's say you have, you have a small group of you, 2 or 3 or 4 people, and you're trying to do 2 or 3 projects simultaneously. You want to know who's going to be working on which project when. Forecast helps you plan that. So you know who is going to be scheduled to do which part of projects when, right? And it integrates with Harvest, which is very helpful. So, of course, you're going to need to keep track of your books. QuickBooks Online is a pretty darn easy way to do it. For the size and scale of our consulting businesses, it's about the straightforward thing to do. In addition, since it's online, your bookkeeper doesn't need to come to your office or your house or anything else. Obviously, you can, they can. In fact, the way we've set this up in some of my companies, along with Bill.com, is we're sort of paperless. So we scan, with our phones, any receipt or invoice that we have or something that comes in an email, we can just forward it into Bill.com. The bookkeeper will sort of triage it, make sure Bill.com actually tries to scan the invoice and pick the right accounting codes and that sort of thing. Once it's been trained a few times, it can pretty much do that perfectly. The bookkeeper can make sure it did it right, entered all the numbers properly. And then it goes in, if it's an accounts payable, it'll show up as something that needs approval. You can mark it, if you have several people that are approving things, they can be approved. You can have one person that decides which thing to pay when, so you can make sure the bank account stays positive. You can make some judgments as to which things get paid in what order, which is sometimes very helpful in a business where you have several people doing things and everybody's maybe got a debit card or something. That can be a real disaster if you're not keeping track pretty carefully.